Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another UKPW Insider. I am the Mouthpiece from the South-East, or quite simply the Mouthpiece. As you know, doesn't matter which as long as you get it right. And today, I am absolutely buzzing to welcome my first guest I actually personally like. It's like Ross Griffith, CJ Gunner. It is the one and only Segway riding, number crunching, bitte begrüßen Sie das mathematische Genie, Fentos. Welcome.
Thank you very much for the introduction, good sir. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yourself?
I'm extremely well, thank you.
So, lockdown, it's been a year since our last show. Unfortunately, it was a bit of an up and down show for you because unfortunately you lost in questionable circumstances the interregional championship. However, Dale Jones, your very good close friend, associate, and tag team partner, gained the UKPW championship finally, and which led to unspeakable events in Vegas. So how has this past 12 months been for you?
It has been quite good. Admittedly, apart from the wrestling side, not too much has changed. I've still been able to give lectures. I've still been able to do my research and talk to all of my students. So apart from getting kicked in the head, it's quite similar, actually. Yeah.
So for UKPW fans that are not familiar with Fentos outside of the ring, what is it that you actually do when you're not competing?
So I am a university lecturer and a researcher, so I specialise in a few areas in the fields of mathematics, particularly fluid dynamics. And yeah, I spend most of my time researching that, trying to get more information on the subject, a few publications as well, published some books as well. Yeah, that's mostly everything, just a general a dorky person.
Dorky. Well, as we said, mathematical genius isn't just a gimmick, it is a reality, which some of the talent at UKPW can't actually live up to that. You actually do, so that's fantastic. So so these past 12 months, obviously, as we know, there's been no wrestling. There's been a lot going on behind the scenes, which obviously you're aware of. So for Fentos, where did it all begin? This wrestling journey. What was your first exposure to the business, to the love of wrestling?
Ooh. So from listening to people you've been talking to, they seem to have very vivid memories of their first wrestling kind of experience. Mine is quite vague, if I'm honest with you. All I remember was when I was extremely young, just seeing Rikishi's big ass and the color blue. That's all particularly I remember. I don't even remember what show it was. I don't remember what year it was. I just remember thinking, ooh, that's strange, isn't it? And then from that point, I think I continued watching it. But the first match I remember completely actually being invested in was Brock Lesnar versus Eddie Guerrero. That's the one, for the WWE Championship. I can't tell you what year that was or what event. I don't remember that far. But I just remember that being the first thing of wrestling I can fully cognitively remember. So then afterwards was WrestleMania 20. That was my first year of WrestleMania I remember. Yeah, and then since then I've kind of kept in touch with this strange thing. And then at some point, for some reason, I thought I should get involved in it. I don't know why. My IQ has diminished since then, being hit in the head so much. But yeah, that's my story, really.
Yeah, I know the one that was for the WWE Championship. That was No Way Out 2004. A very good match actually for someone newly exposed to wrestling to actually get into. You know, Eddie at the time was #1 underdog. You've got a big, huge beast, Brock Lesnar, and it was a very it's very much one of those underdog stories where the underdog came out on top. And obviously WrestleMania 20 was also a fantastic WrestleMania as well. So what a time to get into it. So I noted it's quite intriguing actually speaking to someone who kind of found their passion for wrestling so late on compared to others, because you speak to most people, it's always been around the 80s or kind of like the mid to late 90s and that, where you're sort of right in the middle of the 2000s.
Yeah, conversations with you or Dow were just impossible. Like I'll just nod along and agree with whatever you're saying, but really I don't know how these people are.
So when you decided that you would actually try out wrestling, where did you go to train? How did you go about getting yourself into the business?
I first started training in Swanley at the old IPW training school. I think I was looking on the internet, just researching wrestling, just browsing along, and then I saw that we have a show in Tunbridge. And I thought, oh, that's really cool. I'll go along to see it, because I didn't really know that English wrestling existed at that point. I thought it was purely American. So I went, and I really enjoyed the show, and Doug Williams was there, because I remembered him from TNA. Because I was a huge TNA fan as well. We'll probably figure that out momentarily. But I remember seeing him, and I thought, this is really cool. They said that they had a training school, so I went. And it just started from there. And since then, I've had more trainings. Well, I can count very high, but more training schools than I can count. And at this point, I think I'm on my 5th or 6th training school, at least 20th different coach. But yeah, I've maintained training all the way through my wrestling career. I know some people will they'll train for 3 or 4 years and then stop that and just primarily wrestle on events. But I've preferred to maintain the training throughout, because in my opinion, all you can do is keep learning, which is literally my day job. Just keep learning and keep understanding more. And yeah, so I'm probably still going to be training for the next 10 years or so, because I just love improving my knowledge wherever I can.
Oh, let's hope so. Now, have you I assume you've also trained trainees at some point, have you?
No, I don't fancy that, if I'm completely honest with you, because I don't think... One thing I've learned from teaching maths and kind of tutoring people is that I'm a verbal explainer and not a physical one. So I'm quite happy to tell you what all of these equations mean and what you need to do, and certain theories about different scientific fields. But if I were to get in the ring and show you things, first of all, I don't think I'm good enough to teach wrestling at this moment. And secondly, I think I would get irritated very quickly if someone's not doing what I'm asking them to. There have been a few occasions where people I've tutored in mathematics, I think for GCSE level in particular, I get annoyed when they don't understand what I'm telling them. It's the point where I want to get up and hit them, which isn't good, especially if they're children. Yes, so no is the very long answer. I haven't taught anyone wrestling.
Possibility further down the line when you feel...
Potentially. Yeah, sorry, I can't give you a witty answer for that. Potentially.
Okay, well, I personally, I think that's. I think you do fine on that. To be honest, so I assume you do a lot of your students know that you wrestle.
No, I like to keep that separate. I keep my work and play life two different things. Just because I like to maintain respect, especially in a scientific environment. What you need to focus on when you're in the classroom is what you're doing, not who the teacher is. Because in all honesty, my role doesn't matter as a teacher. You just need to make sure that people understand things. So yeah, I keep my personal life out of it. They really don't need to know. And they probably come and heckle me as well, which I don't want.
Oh, well, I'm shocked because obviously, you know, you're on the internet, you're on social media, etc. I'm surprised none of them have actually come across and kind of looked at this
Well, some have come across it, but I just give one-word answers. Like, oh, are you that wrestler? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, conversation done.
I expect the respect levels would be like that because a few of them be like, okay, I must pay attention and get this done, I think, because I don't want to get one of those big, huge boots to the face. Paying attention. That's that would have been fantastic. So, can you remember when you had your first match? How long you've been training for before you had your first match?
It's coming up to 6 years. My first match was just a regular Rumble. I think a lot of people, when they start out, just do Rumbles. They kind of spare bodies. So that was my first experience running in, immediately getting eliminated. Job done. I can go home. My first real match, my first singles match, was with... It was with a young gentleman. I can't remember the name, but it was roughly 5 years ago. And I recently watched it back and it was just awful. So it's probably best that I don't remember because it's not great by today's standards.
Oh dear. So yeah, you've obviously you've achieved quite a lot in UKPW. Former interregional champion, former tag team champion. Which has been probably your favourite moment personally for yourself in UKPW to date? One thing that stands out more than any other.
Ooh, that's a good question. Immediately, my answer is for you when I first won my interregional championship, and that was actually in Falconwood against legend of British wrestling, the Wonder Kid Johnny Storm. So to be able to say that not only did you win the UKPW Interregional Championship, but you were able to do it against someone as prestigious as Johnny Storm, for me, that will stay with me forever. Without the cockiness of winning aside, my other favourite moment probably was, and I don't remember the event, but I was on commentary and it was Dow Jones versus The Nail in a Falls Count Anywhere match. I don't remember if you were there or not, but it was a Falls Count Anywhere match. The Nail isn't too savvy with reading contracts and the fine print and all of the legalities. So, clever thing Dow did is he, in the fine print, changed the rules so that Falls Count Anywhere has to happen within the building, meaning that as soon as you go outside the building, the count starts. So what Dow did is he then locked the Nail inside a car boot, walked back into the building, and then won a Falls Count Anywhere match by count out. Bloody hell, that is clever. Yeah, that's my favourite.
Very familiar. I've heard this from Dow himself. He told me about that, and I was actually disappointed that I missed that event because Dow and the Now's rivalry is one of my favourite in UKPW. I still hope that there will be a point down the line where we'll see them two again. Now that Dow's taken that extra step up as being champion, I'd love to see how because the Now's been absent on and off for quite a period of time for the past year. I say this past year. The previous year before our last show.
I assume shame of losing Falls Count Anywhere by count out, probably. Falls kept it away.
Quite possibly. It's very embarrassing. Very, very embarrassing indeed. How did Smart Money come about? Because obviously everyone knows I'm a mark for Smart Money. Everyone knows how much I love you guys. The new move. Which came over a commentary. I remember that day when you took on the business. Yeah, how did because Dow's not an easy person to connect with on any level. Obviously, I know you're both geniuses in your own right, in your own ways. I suppose you've got that in common. But how did you two manage to connect so well?
So I'll use your word specifically, both geniuses, and I think that's the thing that immediately drew my attention with Dow is despite his sometimes, I think the word moronic is too harsh, but he uses actions he's sometimes very silly and he makes big mistakes. But you need to be an extremely clever man to have that kind of wealth behind you, especially if you're a self-made man like Dao is. So respect for a fellow intellect, as it were. And from that point, the friendship just grew. And at that point, we realized that, well, we're better than everyone else. So let's prove it. Let's beat them.
Fantastic. No, I'm hoping there'll be another tag team title run in the future for Smart Money. The business, I keep saying their days are numbered, but it's an interesting, because the tag team division in UKPW at the moment is quite interesting. We know there may be some faces that we may never see again, and then hopefully there'll be some new blood coming. Fingers crossed. That's something which we're looking forward to. Moving on, we're having a women's division debut, new era when we relaunch. What are your feelings and thoughts towards that?
I am extremely looking forward to that. It's something we haven't really seen in UKPW before, and I always embrace change. I embrace looking forward to new, exciting things. So I think this is going to be very fun for UKPW.
Is there one? But we have a few of the talent signed up. Is there any of the female talent that we've signed already, in particular, that you're really looking forward to above any of the others?
I have heard extremely good things about Clementine. I'm very much looking forward to that, especially in Lucha. Yes, I don't know too much about Clementine, but just heard through the grapevine that she is one of the best performers in the country at the moment. So I look forward to seeing that on show day firsthand. Absolutely.
That's a major coup for UKPW to sign, as you said, just described one of the best in the country, which is what we want for UKPW going forward. We want to be able to showcase the best talent in Britain, in British wrestling. Who would you say, and I know obviously there's been many, who would you say has been your favourite opponent, regardless of how much you dislike them? Who would you say has been your most favourite person to go up against in your UKPW career so far?
That's a very good question. Thank you. You ask very good questions, sir. My immediate thoughts, and I always think the first answer you give is the most true, especially in this scenario. So my immediate thought was Johnny Storm. I think to have someone like Johnny Storm backstage, in particular, just a wealth of knowledge for you to get things from, is fantastic. And the fact that I've had a number of occasions where I've shared the ring with Johnny, once beaten him, other times I've lost, unfortunately. But I always enjoy wrestling Johnny. I always enjoy picking his brains, and I always enjoy listening to what he has to say to everyone, especially us younger fellows. So Johnny Storm, definitely. There are also a few others I've really enjoyed. Mountain Stew. Mountain Stew's always fun to wrestle. I think the database on my computer, I looked recently, and out of everyone, I've wrestled Mountain Stew the most.
Okay.
And it's always different. It's never just the same. It's never the same fight. It's never the same outcome. It's always dynamic, and that's what I enjoy. Although I'm a mathematician and enjoy order, I also enjoy disorder. So I always look forward to wrestling Stu because I don't know what I'm going to have. But Johnny Storm and Stu, I think, are my two main answers for you, good sir.
Your answer, bringing up Mountain Stew, actually brings me to an impromptu question, because obviously we now know there is no longer Mountain Stew in UKPW. The attitude changed. He's now the last true superstar, Stuart Shepherd. Now he has this new seriousness about him. Obviously, are you intrigued to see whether or not there could be some kind of an alliance somewhere down the line, seeing as he may be more inclined to the way you think about the UKPW fans and talent now? Or do you think, hold on now, this guy's now more serious? Is he more of a worthy opponent than he ever has been before?
It's funny you say that. Because the day he returned from the locker room after doing this change to the Last True Superstar, his demeanor was slightly different. And you could immediately feel that energy in the locker room. And so I went up to him, and for the first time, I opened a friendly dialogue with Stu, because I thought, well, something's obviously changed with him. And since then, we have become extremely good friends. So very potentially is all I'm saying. I think, especially with how Stu is now, I like what he's thinking. I think he thinks similar to what I do. So yeah, I'm looking forward to what Stu brings in the future, and an alliance is certainly something I would enjoy.
Fantastic. That's something that's a pairing. As much as I love to see you and Dal pairing, obviously, with Dal currently as UKPW champion, I actually really like the potential idea of you and Stuart Shepherd coming together as a unit to see how you two could. I do kind of like the idea of both your styles matching up there. That's very intriguing, and we'll keep an eye on that one, see how, if anything develops from that. Is there anyone in UKPW that you either haven't faced yet that you would like to face, or you haven't faced enough that you kind of think, I think you and I could create more magic in the ring? I think you and I can do a lot more. Is there anyone in particular?
Ooh, a very good question. Ooh. Again, first name that comes to my head is Gabriel Myers. And I think the reason why that name pops into my head is he is so bloody strong, isn't he? I think recently on the UKPW Facebook page, there was a video or a photo uploaded of Gabriel Myers just holding me in a standing suplex. Exactly. Usually, if people are able to suplex me at all, they do it by popping the hips and just throwing me over, and there's no real power involved, it's just momentum. And I appreciate that. But on this occasion with Gabriel, I didn't do anything. He just grabbed me, put me up, and held me. He probably could have done a muscle pose and a squat if he wanted to, but that is ruddy impressive. So I would love to see how that would mix, especially in a singles competition, because I don't think I've ever wrestled anyone who's that innately strong. So I'm curious what that would look like. But apart from Gabriel, I think I've wrestled most people. Potentially some of the newer signings that I've heard of, but I'm not too sure how much I'm allowed to reveal at this point. But there are a few I've heard coming that I really want to get a piece of.
Give them the welcoming committee awaits. It's interesting, and I don't know whether or not Gabriel's seen any of the other episodes of UKPW Insider yet, but his name tends to crop up a lot among his peers as from a respectable opponent, a respectable friend. And I mentioned when speaking to CJ Gunner previously about how he's the epitome of someone who behind the scenes is such a soft-spoken gentleman who carries himself so well, but as soon as he steps through those ropes, the guy's an absolute beast of a man.
Yes, exactly. Don't let Gabriel outside of the ring for you.
Because that guy is, and as you know, you've been on the receiving end of a few of his hard-hitting maneuvers, and
I don't know whether that's a deliberate game plan by Gabriel. I don't know whether that is lulling people into a false sense of security. So you'll think you're going to wrestle a nice, friendly man, and as soon as you get in there, you get your head squished. But no, I'm curious.
Obviously, we know how the main event went down last November. I was, I think, more invested in it than I potentially should have been. But what was that? That it just seemed to be absolute. I know you said sometimes you like disorder, sometimes chaos. I love chaos. And I say it on commentary to Ross. I love it when it's absolute chaos. We've gone from, obviously, you and Dal must have had some sort of game plan initially heading into that last man standing match against Alexander Roth, and then obviously Kieran Corrupt then appears, and then Martin Raymondson is then brought into the fold. And but you know, what were your thoughts when you yourself realised what Kieran Corrupt had done to Alexander Roth? I mean, it was a massive shock to so many. One that I felt was necessary, because I always felt that Kieran Corrupt had, you know, really come into his own, that it was time maybe to break away from the hit set and actually really show everyone just how good he really is. What was your feelings on what transpired?
I haven't discussed this with Dow yet, but I don't know whether if Dow was aware. Maybe planting some conspiracy theories for you. But I don't know if Dow knew what Kieran's intentions were. I didn't, and it really was a shock for me. And at that point, I realised, because I was backstage at this point, I was being held hostage by referee Martin Raymondson with a kendo stick. At that point, when I saw what Kieran did and completely shocked me, I realised, okay, there's a chance to make order out of this disorder. So this sudden change could work in our favour. I don't know whether Alex was aware, the social media man. I don't know whether Dow in the ring was aware. I don't know whether Ross Briffett was aware. I don't know whether you were aware, to be completely honest with you, but I had no clue. And yes, I love the disorder. And from that disorder, we managed to pull off the goal, didn't we? Yes, so...
Oh, yes.
Yes, indeed. So in retrospect, that was one of the best surprises I've ever received, because we partied heartily the next week, didn't we?
Yeah. That phone call at 4 a.m. in Vegas, saying that you're tearing up the casino on your Segway with security stumbling all over the place because they can't catch you. And I know Alex, the social media guy, doesn't like this name that I'm about to drop, but it was almost like saying you're the Lewis Hamilton of the Segway racing, almost. You're that quick. Sorry, Alex, for dropping Lewis Hamilton. I know you dislike the guy, but all I know is, I mean, obviously I didn't foresee any of what transpired. Was pleasantly surprised. There is, and I know it came over on commentary, Ross didn't have a clue. Ross doesn't have a clue about anything. Irrelevant. But Alex obviously was very stunned and dazed, and and I remember him leaning over to the ropes, looking over towards the commentary desk, and he was like, you know, what happened? And I remember shouting to him that Corrupt's turned on Roth, he's turned on him, and Alex was having this kind of like, okay, whether or not it's
still, that's the question.
Yeah, I still think he was dazed. I don't know if it completely registered, but how beautiful was it and fitting that it was Martin Raymondson who got himself involved, ended up having to make that 10 count that actually awards Dal Jones the UKPW Championship. I mean, how
sweet irony.
It really was. And when is this guy going to learn that he needs to remain professional and stick to officiating? He's got no business competing. No business competing. So, when this new era launches, when that will be, soon I hope, rather than later.
2040, yes.
Cannot wait. What is the goal for Fentos going forward? What are your aims and goals? What are you sort of thinking about going, right, when we get our shows up and running again, one of the first things I want to do is I'm thinking of going, you know, I want to challenge this guy. My aim is that championship or whatever. What do you have in mind so far?
Okay. So my immediate thought is get the Interregional Championship back. I know you were there for the Fatal 4-Way Scramble match, and some of the sound bites you gave were absolutely wonderful. But it was a case of if you blink, you'll miss something in that contest. And up until I think it was the last 15 seconds, I was the champion. I was the man who had pinned the man to beat, and I was holding temporarily the title. Suddenly, in that 15 seconds, 2 quick changes happened. And then all I remember is not understanding what happened, but seeing Buff run for the door. And then I quickly figured out, right, that's, oh dear, I need to catch him. And then Buff managed to evade everyone. He ran into the ring, and that was probably the loudest cheer I have ever heard live on a wrestling show, was when that count finished and Buff was in the ring and he won. That's great. That's great for Buff, and I'm happy he had that moment. But I want that moment. So I'm going to come immediately for Buff. When we're all back and sorted and can do what we want to do, I'm putting my name forward to get that inter-regional championship back. Because after all, it is mine. And I had Danny Sabbath steal it from me, and then Buff steal it from Sabbath. But in reality, I was the man of that match, and I should have won.
100%. Now, everyone knows I'm open about my love and respect for Buff. And yes, it was a smart move that he did to evade everyone at the end. I've said that, and I mentioned this to CJ Gunner on the last episode of Insider, about his disastrous officiating with the fast. That is exactly probably why you didn't walk out with your championship in tow, was because that's how you get that many counts done in such a short period of time. CJ Gunner did the 3 counts.
Yes, I agree with you. I would love to blame him, but I think if I was in that same position, I probably would have lost it too, because I stand up from a 3 count and immediately there's 2 more. I would have lost track. So while I detest CJ with all of my being, I can't blame him entirely.
Okay.
But I will hit him next time I see him, that's for sure.
I love the fact that you've not held back. You've made it completely clear. Buff, if and when he sees this, is now going to know as soon as we go back.
I want you.
There you hear it, ladies and gentlemen.
We can soundbite that. I'll just point right to the camera. Carry on.
Well, we're hearing it here first. We know Fentos is calling out Buff Broadside already. At least Buff might have plenty of time to prepare, as yourself will. Please, COVID, go away. We need our wrestling back. So what do you envision for UKPW? If you could, all the fans, even though we don't tend to really like the fans that much, have you got a message for the fans on what they can expect from the new era of UKPW, from someone with some inside knowledge? What can they expect from UKPW that they haven't seen before?
So, I've heard through the grapevine that many changes are on the horizon. You alluded to it earlier yourself with the new women's division, and I think their prioritization, new management's prioritization, is to improve the experience. So you're going there to see the phenomenal wrestling, but the production values, the intermediate details, all are amplified by 100. So what I say to the fans listening is that when you come back, expect the same welcoming and fun UKPW, but expect it a little bit louder, just a little bit more boisterous. I think is my summary for everybody.
I can't wait. It's so excited. So excited. Excuse me 1 second. My phone's vibrating. Hello? Dal. I am conducting an interview with him right now. Yes, sir. Okay. Doubt it's yes, doubt it's fine. Okay, I'm okay. I'll sort it now. Okay, thank you. Cheers, champ. Bye. Speaking of Dal Jones, he wishes he needs you. He's not happy. That's all I'm going to say. I have no idea. I don't know. maybe your mention of Buff Broadside is probably triggered something. I don't know. It tends to have that effect. But yeah, Fentos, I'd love to be. I could speak to you for ages more. We have run out of time. Dale Jones requests your attention, so I'm going to pass it over to Dale. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been very insightful. I can't wait to see you again, my friend, when we get back to doing our shows. And I wish you all the very best going forward. And yeah, Buff Broadside, watch out.
No, thank you very much, good sir. Yeah, apparently I need to run off to Dow, but thank you so much for having me, and it's been a pleasure, and I shall see you soon, good sir, and I shall see Buff even sooner.
Ladies and gentlemen, the mathematical genius, and I hope you understood my German earlier, bitte begrüßen Sie das mathematische Genie, Fentos.
Lovely, thank you very much.